Steam Next Fest is here once again, which means another deluge of demos across every genre imaginable. While some of these games are bound to become breakout indie hits the likes of Dredge, Tunic, and Spiritfarer, how do you find the diamonds in the rough? Well, that's where us folks at Second Wind come in. We played a ton of them and whittled it down to our 12 favorite Next Fest demos that you should absolutely wishlist and keep an eye on going forward.
My favourite thing about the Harold Halibut demo is the incredible attention to detail. You see, in this sci-fi adventure, everything on screen has been made entirely by hand. The painterly brushstrokes on faded posters, every item on the general store's shelf, rusty pipes, peeling wallpaper, the stitches in knitted jumpers. There are hundreds of tiny details for you to take in. Developer Slowbros have been working on Harold Halibut for over a decade now, and that dedication is shown in the careful and considered craftsmanship. The controls can be a little clumsy, but exploring the spaceship is a real treat. And that goes for meeting the locals too, who are a real collection of oddballs. Turns out being raised on a city-sized spaceship submerged in alien ocean for generations after fleeing your home planet makes for some pretty quirky community members. The demo feels like a mishmash of retrofuturism, Wes Anderson, and the stop-motion animation of Aardman. It acts as a wonderful window into this strange space society. But there's drama afoot. As the demo comes to an end, the ship receives a message. Turns out Earth survived the calamity, and that the ship and its occupants are welcome to return home. With many of the ship's locals only ever knowing the inside of this sunken vessel, this community now face a very difficult decision. It's an answer we'll find out when Harold Halibut releases sometime later this year.
Tales of Kenzera Zau from Surgeon Studios is a brand new IP from a brand new studio that's being published under EA's Originals label. It's a visually striking Metroidvania set in a fictionalized African land in the far future that blends mythos and mysticism into a game setting we don't often get to see. You play as Zau, a young shaman on a quest to resurrect his deceased father by striking a deal with the god of death. The game promises to take you through a journey that confronts grief itself, and is full of compelling lore and symbolism that can be directly tied to its inspirations in Kenyan culture. I noticed that Zau's jumping animation mimics an iconic Bantu dance move, and his shield and spear weapons look like dead ringers for the insignia on the Kenyan national flag. Combat is weighty, movement is smooth, and the water freezing upgrade the demo gives you lends itself to some really cool platforming challenges. I can't wait to see more of Tales of Kenzera Zau. Not just because it's shaping up to be a slick and beautiful Metroidvania, but because it's got a pulsing heart, with a message to convey from a perspective we don't get nearly enough of in the space right now. You can check out my recent bite-sized preview of the demo for a deeper look as well.
Crypt Custodian is a charming as heck top-down Metroidvania where you assume the role of a mischievous cat sentenced to an eternity of janitorial work in the afterlife. Thing is, this janitorial work mostly consists of exploring the dangerous wilds, picking fights with all manners of baddie, and helping out wandering souls in need. The anthropomorphic critters, somber atmosphere, and combat pace all bring to mind shades of Death's Door in a really fantastic way. The core loop of venturing out further and further as you upgrade your character works really well here thanks to the nicely interconnected map and some fun combat upgrades that change the way you approach any given battle. Light puzzles, optional challenge rooms, and a bit of backstory regarding your previous life as a regular old kitten all meld together to create the kind of game I know I'm just going to lose myself in. Crypt Custodian comes from Kyle Thompson, whose previous game Islets was one that Frost and I would not stop going on about a few years back, and this one is shaping up to be a similar banger.
My new construct of vine and bone. Beloved scion, show me your potential. Find and end the pestilent horrors that threaten our beautiful garden. Bring them mercy. Truth be told, I was hooked on the demo for Perennial Order as soon as those words appeared on screen. My character sprawled across the ground after breaking free from some sort of viscid botanical pod. Plants? Horror? Plant horror? Sign me up. Developed by the appropriately named Garden Fiend Games, Perennial Order is a 2D boss rush game that you can play solo or with a friend via local or online co-op. Your character is a perennial knight tasked with slaying abominations produced by a plague called the Overgrowth. The art is dreary and painterly, and the world is full of peculiar NPCs, such as a decapitated giant head with whom I had a very interesting conversation before ending his miserable existence. Per his request, of course. If you try the demo for yourself, don't be fooled by the simplicity of the Arboreal Terror tutorial boss. Perennial Order is not an easy game, at least according to how sweaty my palms got while realizing the Fallen Rider fight had a second phase. Critical strikes need to be timed precisely, you can perform a limited number of dashes in quick succession, and a single hit will kill you. Though the Fallen Rider felled me several times, each attempt got me further than the one before it, and I never lost the muscle memory I'd gained since I respawned directly at the beginning of the encounter. As a result, my eventual victory felt well earned and left me hungry for more plant horror mayhem.
Sure, shooting things is fun, but I'm not into twitch reflexes and prioritizing headshots. But a puzzle shooter with a striking art style is exactly the shooter I want. In Children of the Sun, the plot ties directly into the concept and the mechanics. You play a telekinetic person trying to kill the people hunting them. While those people look for you in different locations, you skirt around the perimeter and scope out where everyone is. From the best vantage point you can find, you attempt to make the most of one bullet. However, it's not about lining everyone's heads up in a row. After the shot, the world moves in slow motion and you have to line up the next shot from the exploding remains of your previous target. Obstacles, moving targets, and folks running away if they see someone die add complications to the straightforward premise. Hitting a non-interactable part of the environment or missing completely forces you to restart the level. However, tricks like slowing the bullet mid-flight and having limited control to adjust the trajectory to get around obstacles tickled my brain and kept every level engaging. Best of all, I felt rewarded for figuring out how to pull it off any way I could, rather than figuring out the one correct way to explode every head. While the 7-level demo is short, it's packed with enough ideas and solid gameplay to have me on the edge of my seat until it gets a release date.
Most of the farming sim games that I've played don't feel great to move around in. Walking to the next task, chopping down a tree, whatever it may be, it doesn't feel fun to exist in those worlds. You still do those things in Southfield, but it's the dressing that keeps it from being dry. This is a vibrant sandbox experience, but it's also a building and farming sim, an adventure game, and above all, a game with a tumble button that lets you flop around like a ragdoll. It never takes itself seriously, but also feels hell-bent on making sure that even the most mundane activities spark joy. Southfield's primary movement option, besides full-on vehicles, sees players vigorously somersaulting to get around. Watering crops, meanwhile, makes your character flail their arms around to, obviously, make sure plants are effectively hydrated. Every element exists in service of creating a goofy sandbox with even goofier toys to play with, and the Play-Doh character models in Dr. Seuss Dream World give everything that much more life. Southfield reminds me of Slime Rancher. It's like playing a game inside a finished coloring book. If you find yourself bored by rigid controls in this genre, I think Radical Forge's project might grab you too, especially if you've got friends to roll around with.
Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip is one of those mini open world games, similar to A Short Hike. It's all incredibly slapstick. Terry wants to launch a car into space. He doesn't have a driver's license, but that's fine, since Spranklewater doesn't have any laws. So you crash through cars and send pedestrians flying, and hey, it's not even a crime. The game's dialogue is self-consciously quirky, which can often be annoying, but actually works. I laughed out loud a couple of times, and smiled a few more. The wonky, squishy art and charming music only enhance the lighthearted feel of the game. The exploration gameplay relies a little too much on the minimap. It can be hard to tell where interactable buildings or people are without it, but it's fun to run and jump around looking for collectibles to upgrade your car with, and the quests you find are fun, if simple. A lot of things are locked off in the demo, which hinders the open world, but I still enjoyed exploring and talking to funny little guys. Also, there's a dedicated button to make little meep sounds, the most helpful gameplay feature.
I bet you haven't seen a collection of creatures quite like the ones in Flock. In this whimsical adventure game, you play as a flying shepherd who can take to the skies on the back of a giant bird. The idea is that you'll be helping your zoologist aunt complete an official creature guidebook, and to do that you'll be soaring through pretty alien landscapes, seeking out different adorable looking critters, and charming them to join your flock. I love a lot about this demo. I love the exhilarating feeling of flight as you soar through the air with your bird bud. I love the look and feel of its vibrant world full of strange flora and fauna. What I love most is Flock's parade of colourful creatures. The pointy-nosed cosmets, the silly string pipers, and even the mischievous burgling bules. I love them all and desperately need them all to be part of my hovering herd. Charming each creature takes some skill and a little luck, but with the correct toot of your whistle and keeping a respectful distance, these little cuties will gladly join your squad, flying closely behind you and your other newfound friends. Dipping and diving across pastel plains and fields filled with blossoms is fun, but having a tiny fleet of friends following you is beyond adorable. So yeah, if you like charming adventures and cute critters, then check out Flock.
Chicken Police Into the Hive is another entry in the strange point-and-click adventure game from The Wild Gentleman. It follows hard-boiled detective Sonny Featherland and his partner Marty McChicken across the grimy, crime-filled streets of Clawville, a 1940s melting pot of all manner of anthropomorphic creatures. I really enjoyed the first game's tongue-in-cheek noir storytelling, and was even more intrigued by the background narratives and lore of various species struggling to coexist within the city's borders. This sequel looks like more of the same, with the two detectives being sent into the Hive, a legally segregated part of the city meant for insect kind, making it a powder keg of resentment and fomented resistance. The demo takes you to some familiar locations and reintroduces some old characters, but I didn't get the sense that playing the last game would be crucial to this new story. Gameplay hinges on talking to everyone and learning all you can about a situation before puzzle solutions present themselves, with entertaining minigames sprinkled throughout for added fun. I had to beat a drunken bird in a drinking game to get FaceTime with a frightening Spider-Madame crime boss. Aside from wacky antics like that, a big draw for me is the photo animation, which fuses realistic images of animals and humans into mesmerizing characters brought to life by stellar voice work. I was already intrigued by the demo setup, and know things will only go deeper from there, so I'll be patiently waiting to see what kind of trouble the Chicken Police get themselves in when the game releases.
Beyond Handwell might get overlooked by some. You start in an industrial basement with no idea what's happening, find your way up to a hospital in ruins, and read reports of some kind of outbreak. What it lacks in a captivating concept, it makes up for in execution. Objects on the ground move when you run over them, creating unexpected and naturally occurring surprise noises. It doesn't just plunge you into darkness and expect you to be spooked. The mix of mood lighting from in-level objects and dark corners of the map requiring you to use your flashlight creates an unsettling ambiance. The level design and unique layout of each section allowed me to both feel like I was just about to get lost without a map, but was also able to find my way back to wherever I wanted to go. The moment-to-moment gameplay with exploration, puzzles, and combat was consistently sliding across the tension and release scale of good horror. Playing to the end of the Beyond Handwell demo revealed a more involved story with a nice twist that had me wanting more. A lot more.
Tower defense games aren't usually my thing, but add in Tetromino-based maze creation and roguelike elements, and suddenly it works for me in a game like Emberwood. Since you're limited to the particular Tetrominos you draw from your deck, you can't always build straight-line mazes, and there are also randomly scattered buff spaces that'll power up your turrets, which you'll want to veer your maze towards. Your selection of turrets is also semi-random, starting with 3 and collecting more as rewards for completing stages, so you can't always just use the same strategy and immediately get bored. Most of the towers use elemental attacks, and you can get equipment that boosts certain elements or adds effects to them. I'd like to see some crazier effects, as getting really strong synergies is pretty hard in the demo, but it's already fun to grow your deck of Testrominos, learn which turret combos are good, and upgrade your permanent talent tree. The demo's content runs dry after a few hours, but I came back to the game multiple times to play a few rounds. With some more content and a bit more refinement, this is shaping up to be an interesting roguelite.
Ultras looks and feels like if H.R. Giger took some shrooms and tried to make his own version of Super Metroid. You can probably tell as much just by looking at the footage on the screen, but I'm happy to report that there is plenty of substance to complement the style. Your basic 2-hit swipes and spinning air attacks, which were already expanded upon in my short time playing, are punchy. What makes directional air combos feel even better though is the explosion of color that washes over the screen anytime an enemy is defeated. Every enemy death looks like a little watermelon just exploded, so it's nice that Ultras creatively asks players to chow down on the remains of their foes to gain health and expand their moveset. Plus, the more uniquely you string together attacks, the fresher their remains will be. Swift, close quarters fights and delicious art both come together in stunning form for the demo's boss battle. Every move and ability I had picked up along the way was utilized by the time I got to this last big fight, leaving me feeling satisfied but starving for more. When I hear the word Metroidvania, I immediately worry that I'm about to play another dime a dozen iteration that does little to push these kinds of experiences forward. Thankfully, Ultras did more than enough to earn my interest, and I think it'll earn yours too.